I wanted to follow up that video on creating a home within yourself because there's just so much more to say about that. But I wanted to share a story about like me noticing really powerfully the effects of me creating a home within myself, like within an experience I went into, or like the effects of how I've been doing that as I moved into an experience that was ended up being really powerful. And so over solstice, I went to this retreat. So I decided to show up early because I had the time and then stay a little bit later. And so it was actually really important for me to show up early. I think I realized later that it meant I had a slower transition into this group experience. And I've been really over the last couple years, like as I know myself as a neurodivergent person, as an autistic person, and really exploring and getting curious about like what is it that I really need. Like yes, I've like pushed myself to get through things, but if I was really still and curious and present, like what would I become aware of that I actually need that helps me not to have to push through things and, hit burnout as I have in the past. So as I did that experience where I ended up sort of because I had the days and I needed a place to stay anyways, I went early. I realized later that actually was really helpful. I was able to explore the town. I was able to like move through things kind of slowly. Also because the travel day itself tends to be can be hard on me. Not all the well. It's hard on me in different levels. Sometimes it makes me really angry, likely because of like the taking the bus and doing this and it's loud. So I just get grumpy for like another day, for that day and then the next day. But it's funny because actually, when I went there to where I am now, another place, it wasn't so much I was grumpy, but I was very tired. So it can show up in different ways. That the transition between spaces and things and carrying all my stuff, going into a new thing, can like I just require a bit more slowness in that, or a bit more like taking my own time at my own pace, really honoring what I need in that. And I will say too that around needs that you might not know what you need. It can be something where you begin to realize as things are happening, oh, I'm having this reaction to something. This is telling me I probably need, maybe ask yourself then, like, what is it that I need? This reaction is like making me aware of that I even have a need. So yeah, it's not going to be something that I can just say from now until forever. Every travel day, I know I need this, this, and this. Likely not. Because I'm also like ADHD and I like things different ways, different times. So yeah, it can be an interesting thing to sort of, where was I going with that? Speaking of. All right, so that was me sort of after the fact realizing something that helped me with just like my own needs, and which is a part of creating a home within yourself. And I think even though it wasn't consciously intentional, right? But maybe the universe, whatever, was supporting me in this. That the fact that I was thinking about it, I was reflecting, and I was noting and noticing is all part of creating a home within myself too, right? It doesn't always have to be just me intentionally doing everything, but sometimes something can actually work out really well. And then you notice like, hey, this showed me something, this, in a beautiful way, rather than in a painful lesson, right? Also too can happen. So I showed up early. I was taking my time, doing the things that I wanted. I also didn't quite know, it was really funny. I wasn't sure why I chose that retreat. I mean, I just saw it and it was going to be at the place I wanted to go. Because I saw it on the locations events that was happening. I didn't know the facilitator beforehand. some people, they know the facilitator and then they go to the place. I was going to the place and I saw a thing happening. um, and so like, and I was just like, yeah, cool, I will do that. And I kind of read it a little bit, and it didn't really give a huge description. It was very funny. I was like, I don't really know what we're doing. I get the theme or whatever. And so I just had that question of like, what are we doing? And so that piece around why I was questioning why I was there, I think will be in a different video. But there was a part of me that was a bit unattached to, like, I didn't have a big expectation of like, this is going to be a most amazing retreat. There's going to be so much magic and all this stuff, right? So there's an element of what was happening too, right? I was like, yeah, I don't know exactly why I'm here, but I wanted to, like, I felt drawn, I'm coming, it's in the place and the location that I want to be. So yeah. And, and so there was an element of me being a bit unattached as I moved into it without expectation. And I was also just like, I've been building this sense, especially around solo traveling, where I just can go and do things at my own pace. It's all self-directed. So the solo traveling has really helped me cultivate a lot more self-direction without waiting, without needing someone to go with. Like, I've just really been good about directing myself and intuitively following the sort of pulls towards different things, right? And so that was happening as well. Like, even when I got to that town, which was really interesting, and I just found myself like, okay, I want to go explore this, I want to go explore that. And I was just doing that. And so when the people started showing up to the retreat, and so everything was shifting, and now we're going to be going into this group experience, I found myself able to really maintain and keep that sort of self-direction even within this group environment. And I remember too, there was a part of me that was going like, that was aware, like, hey, and became aware based on like little micro things, that me being self-directed and sort of going at my own pace and doing my own things, even within a group, it's like people notice those things and they think it's a little strange sometimes. I'll give you an example. Like, for example, when they all came in, like, the thing that people would do is go around the kitchen table and they're all chatting. And I didn't want to. And so I went over to the library and I was just writing in my journal. Because I had a sense, I'm like, I'm going to engage, like, when I actually feel drawn to, but I'm not going to force myself to. And not like I didn't say anything to anybody. Like, I said, as some people came, like, I was like, hey, hi, like, where are you from, whatever. Because I don't have this accent from here. They can tell I'm not from here. And so, right, so, but for I guess other folks, like, they're more drawn to keeping that going. Like after you do the introductions and things, like let's keep talking and learn, whatever. And I just wasn't in the mood for that. And so I went over there. And it was funny because the facilitator came over at one point and she's like, oh, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, yeah. But it was swear, in the first couple of, like, in the first 24 hours, because it was only like Friday night, Saturday, Sunday into the afternoon. I feel like it was longer because it was just such an interesting thing. But in the first probably 24 hours, I think she asked me at least 3 or 4 times if I was okay. Like, not based on it, like, I wasn't upset. Like, there wasn't like at least to me, right? I'm like, I don't think I was giving off a parent signal, but it was just because of it being different, right? And then people are like, oh, maybe I should go check on them or something, which I think is, is nice, right? Because, like, what if, someone needed somebody to ask them before they were willing to say, like, I get it. But it was just interesting because I think in the past I would have felt that it wouldn't have been as conscious. I would have seen people ask me if I'm okay, and I would have, like, sort of unconsciously or nervous system level told myself, like, I must be doing something wrong because they're thinking something's wrong. And then I would try to fix that and try to push myself in, like, figure out what I was supposed to be doing. And it was so cool. Like, I'm getting a little emotional, feeling like how cool it was that in my mind I just noticed, I'm like, oh yeah, this is strange for them. That's okay. Or strange for her, or strange for someone who was asking me if I was okay, right? Like, that's okay. I'm still gonna do this. And I would even consciously say to myself, like, yeah, I think this is what I used to like notice and feel on that micro level, and then make those adjustments. I just really don't have to. And I'm really okay with that. And I'm really okay. There were some elements where, people come in and you want to be like, you want good, people's good opinion, right? But I just noticed those moments when it would kind of come up a little bit. I'd be like, you know what? I'm also okay, like, with being the strange one. Like, I'm okay with that. It's, yeah. Like, even if I feel the urge, like, I don't have to follow that. Because that's not me, that's conditioning. And so I noticed myself, like, going, like, for example, they were all going to go up to a specific place at the site near us. So, like, we were in a location, we were in a home, and then it was near a historic site. And so they were all going to go up there for this event that was happening. And I had been up there like twice already because I got early. I got there in early. And I knew what the hike was like. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, man, there's like a lot of stairs. I don't want to be trying to talk to somebody while I'm like going up this hill, while I'm thinking about breathing too hard or something. So I sort of like tapped her and I said, hey, I know we're gonna go up there, but like, do you mind if I just meet you guys up there? She was like, yeah, everything okay? I'm like, yeah. That was like the second time, right? I'm like, yeah, everything is okay. I just want to go on my own. and, and not have to be thinking about, like, I don't want that pressure. I don't want to be chatting. I don't want to be thinking about how fit or non-fit I feel in this moment. I will meet you there. And also I think too, there was something else. I was going to go change, or there was something I needed to do in the room. I just didn't want the pressure of like having to go do that and then come down, make sure I was back downstairs at a certain time. And it was just like, I'll meet you there. And it's just been really, really cool to see how I just do these things naturally. I just notice, or I just have this awareness about, oh, I want to do this, and then I just like make it happen. I'll go and I did check in with her. I don't know why. Like, when I am in a group setting, it's kind of like there's an element of like how much, like, I want to be aware of my impact on the space. So sometimes I'll ask permission, even though like I doubt someone would say no. Like, I'm kind of asking for permission. I'm kind of just telling you what I'm going to do. And then other times I just like allow it to be a little bit dissonant, because that then gets to be their thing, their processing. If it's strange for you, then that's for you. And then other times I'm like right in sync, and that's great too. So like, we went up there and I came up at my own time and I got up there, and I was sitting in the back, and then she realized I was there, and then she was like, come up over here. And so I went up over there, and then a little bit later I'm like, so then I like go back and stand in the back. I just kind of was doing whatever felt good in that moment. Because I remember at one point I was just like, yeah, I'm kind of over this activity we're doing. And so I almost decided to leave, but then I decided, like, well, maybe if I just stand in the back, like, I can move, because it was partly just it was physically painful. So I realized that maybe that was part of it. The annoyance that was building was that I was having physical pain. So I went in the back and I stand there and I kind of look around and just sort of appreciate it until the end. I'm like, okay. And it was nice, because then, like, I joined them on the way down, and we go back to the place and we have our opening thing. Or I feel like I didn't join them for one thing, but I can't remember why. I think I was just tired or something. I don't know. So we're moving along. And then, like, the next day, we opened things up, and it was really funny to me because she sort of like made this note about people being on time, and like showing up, because she self-identified as being ADHD, but then also like wanted people to be super on time while also was like holding the space with a lot of flexibility while also it was about like intuitively being with yourself. It was just I'm like, okay, but like I had it, well, it wasn't so much that I was criticizing the fact that she wanted something even though she was in part creating the lack of it in a way. Not in like a big chaotic way. It's just there was a lot of flow to our event, but that was kind of the point of it too. And then, but wanting people to be on time. And I thought to myself, I think the things that came to mind were just solutions. It was funny. I almost wanted to go be like, I have an idea. I have like 2 ideas that would help, because I didn't offer them because it just, it moved on the discussion. I want to be like, hey, I can tell what's happening. I know what happened. And also I have 2 solutions for you. But anyways, so we're going in, we're moving in. So another thing too, other than just like where I physically was doing or socially was doing, is that I was philosophically and psychologically doing things as well that were self-directed. And were a part of me building that in a way that allowed a lot of magic later that I'll mention. And so, for example, this, like the topic of the theme of the retreat, like didn't quite resonate with me, and so which is why I was wondering why I was there. but there's something underneath it did, and also I think the fact that it didn't resonate with me was maybe part of what I was getting from this retreat, is that it was giving me clarity. But one of the things I was doing, even as we were talking, and she was offering her thoughts, kind of like a teacher, while doing the facilitating, was that I was just in myself going like, do I agree? Do I not agree? It's okay if I don't. I don't have to like say it out loud and like tell someone that they're wrong because maybe it's right for her. But for me, I got to really feel into like, oh, what part of this do I appreciate? Do I align with? Do I want to play with? Maybe hold it lightly, without taking it on, but just play with it. What part like already resonates with something that's like very true for me, and then what part doesn't? Because there were some things I was just like, no, I don't agree with the whole thing you just said. But not like from a making the other person wrong. Like it was that whatever their thoughts were about the thing. I know I'm being very general. I think because I will get into the actual specifics of that part in a different video. This is not about the specifics. But like, so like whatever the thing is that she was talking about, what made sense to her was giving her something. So like, I don't ever really want to tell someone else, you should believe this. I think when I do some facilitating and maybe, I don't know if I want to call it teaching, but sort of like offering of my perspective and things that I'm learning, I want to, what is the term? I want to have that as part of my maybe explicit container, being like, this doesn't have to be how you think. That's okay. Here's some thoughts, and if it resonates, great. If it like doesn't resonate, maybe that's cool too, because it's giving you clarity around what would resonate. Right? So we're going along. We get to a point where she touched on a topic lightly that for me, I can't hold it lightly right now, at least, because it creates a lot of grief. And so because of that, I felt like it triggered within me this like grief. And she's just like, oh yeah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh, my initial response is to like make the other person wrong. Like, oh, that's terrible. You can't hold that lightly. But I think what was nice is like, I didn't go too far in my mind about like how, well, you're wrong, because that inspired grief for me. I just kind of like sat with that. And when we were done, because we were close to going on a break, and then she wanted people to come back and finish the thing. This is the same day, a few hours after the whole like beyond time, I just like got up and I went somewhere and I cried. I just like let myself Like, because as she brought up that topic, it brought all these thoughts to my own mind. So I had to just go and like let it sort of come through and allow myself to grieve. Um, and then I went outside, and I was feeling kind of stuck in that, where I remember thinking even like, I don't want to make it wrong necessarily that she has that ability to hold these things lightly, because it doesn't personally affect her. But she wasn't hold it lightly. She was just saying she received something from these things, but it was a concept, right? It wasn't a lived experience. It was a concept. And so that also made me realize some things, which maybe I'll get into later. So I go outside, but I'm feeling kind of stuck on it, because I'm like, oh, I feel really emotional. I don't want to go back down and just like cry in front of everybody. Not that that would be bad, right? Because it was a good container for holding emotions. I just didn't want to. So I didn't want to have to like talk about it, why, or get into the whole thing. And it was really sweet because I was touching the leaves of the plants that were near the deck, just going around, and I kind of asked the trees and nature, I'm like, hey, would you help me sort of shift this, because I do want to feel centered again. And I know there's like a lot of grief that I'm not gonna be able to process just right now, like all in one moment. So I was like touching the leaves, and I remember thinking, it was sort of like to still myself, and then I would kind of come up and still myself, and I knew this was way past when we were supposed to come back, and I remember making the choice consciously, like, I'm not going back right now. This is me taking care of myself, and I'm not gonna like follow a rule when I need to take care of myself. And then at one point it started raining, and it was like something about that like sensory experience. I just kind of stood there, and the fact that it's water, and water is sort of symbolic of emotion and things like that. It helped me to finally like like switch out of like the spinning. It wasn't so much a spiral. I wasn't going down, but it was like kind of caught in a loop. It helped me kind of snap out of the loop. Then I was like, okay, now I felt it. I was like, okay, centered. I'm like, cool. So I go back in there, and I had the thought of, is this gonna make me reject the rest of this experience? Is this gonna make me not want to be here, or like show up with defensiveness or something? I thought about that. I wasn't quite sure. So I went back in and, finished with them. And then we all had this like activity where we went into town, went to this specific thing. And then it was sort of meditatively. And this place, I forget what it's called, which is why I'm not saying, because I can't remember. and then from there we got to disperse and be on our own for a couple hours before we met again. So I went along, and I noticed like I still had a bit of gentleness. Like I was like, they're not wrong. I even said something nice to the facilitator person. I was just like, they're not wrong. I just like got so much grief like come up, and it's intense. And I was thinking like, I don't want to reject the rest of this because of this one thing. Because I wasn't, like just sitting there agreeing with everything she was saying anyways, right? I was holding my energetic, my psychological, my philosophical space. I was directing it myself. And so this was like another moment of like, oh, this is a bigger philosophical dissonance. Like, how do I want to approach that? From a self-directed place, from a place where I have created home within me. Like, I don't have to agree with you because you aren't my home. I'm my home. But, like, how amazing then can that be around conflict? Or how much can we really show up to conflict when we've created that home within ourselves? When I don't have to agree with you, but I can still respect you and, like, honor you as a person. And someone who, like, in some ways, like, I feel inspired by your ability to just show up and facilitate. And you've been doing it for a long time, and things I want to do, right? I don't have to reject you because you saw this one thing you were able to hold it differently than me because it was my lived experience, but it wasn't yours. And it wasn't something that's like a black and white, like, this is definitely bad, this is definitely good. Like, it was just, yeah. So, it had to do with the countries we live in, right? I'm not in my home country, so they were able to talk about my home country as a concept. But for me, I'm like, this is a lived experience and it's stressful. Okay, so, so we go there, we do the thing. She even comes up to me because she saw I didn't come back probably until later. She was like, hey, do you need anything? I was like, no. I realized, and I sort of paused. I was just like, do I need anything? I'm like, do I want to say anything about this? I don't want an apology. It's not like that. But like, and I just said no. I think later I would have been like, I probably could have used a hug, but I didn't realize that until she walked away. I was like, oh, oh well. And so anyways, so she goes off. I sit with myself. I'm still feeling like a little bit like, And I'm walking around though, and I go into this one shop that has different oracle cards and things, and I decided to just like play with one of them and pull a card, and one of the cards said something about envy. And in my mind, right, I had gone through this experience where this thing happened because of this other person, or because this other person was, like, I was still a bit blaming. There was a little bit. It wasn't like entirely, but like there's still a little bit of blame of like, oh, you created this negative thing for me. But it was interesting when I saw that, because at first I was like, no, I don't have any envy for anything. And then I just was able to think about it. I'm like, well, maybe I do. Because like, in one sense, this person is like they've created their business for a lot longer than me, and they've been facilitating for a lot longer, and like there is a part of me that feels like I've been wanting to do that, and I haven't yet done it at that level. So I'm like, yeah, actually maybe there's some envy. And that's okay, like, because we live different lives, we live different stories, we have different needs and barriers and things, right? Like, I can put it into a whole global understanding. And sometimes when I compare myself to someone else, I can feel that envy, because usually that comparison isn't taking the global, what did I just say? the whole context into account, right? But it was why that was powerful is that it was a moment of taking some responsibility, or like realizing like, hey, I'm not just at the effect of these things, and being more self-directed. I wasn't feeling like I was at the effect of everything, but there were some elements where I probably was taking that perspective, and it sort of helps me to sort of become more awake to the areas or the elements where I was still just not being self-directed, or not taking responsibility for my own energy, how I wanted to show up, right? Because if, for example, if something triggers your emotion and then you pull back and then you stay pulled back, like the reaction of pulling back, is healthy, like, right? Like, this is normal. If I stay pulled back, there's a certain point at which this is my choice. I'm actually choosing to like stay pulled back. Sometimes that's good, right? If that thing's harmful, then maybe you shouldn't be to it. But if it's like, if it's not, or if it's something you want to engage with, if you stay pulled back, you just keep saying like, well, you did this thing, I just can't, that's a bit of a victim mindset, right? And so if something with that card and reflecting on it and sort of taking some responsibility for my part of things, I was able to shift, it sort of finally shifted that last bit of that energy. I went into this other shop, this cute little shop, and it had this set of 10 tea light candles that looked like flowers. Like, it was pretty. It wasn't just like a regular white one, but it was like really pretty little tiny tea lights, so it wasn't like a big gift or anything, but I saw them and I'm like, oh, that's the perfect number, and I want to get this. I want to give it to them. I want to like offer it as a gift to people. Yeah. And like with that, there was like this reaching forward, reaching toward that really helped with, you know, my whole like, why am I here? um, you know, like, is this going to really resonate? And I think what it was is it helped me realize too that it didn't have to be about resonating with the whole entire theme or whatever she was like, or her teachings or whatever, but that I was reaching toward the people and like the community, and that this was part of what I was here to receive. And so I did that. I bought that. I put a little note out. I made it anonymous at first, but then they kind of figured it out because I'm bad at lying. and and it was just like this nice, I think it helped too because I probably wasn't talking to people as much. Like I was talking here and there, or like certain people, and you know, and then it was like this thing where it was like, oh, this is me reaching toward connection with everybody, like the whole group. And it really shifted things. And then actually after that, we all went up to this meadow and like did some music and stuff. And I felt so connected. It was like this high moment of just like, oh, this is so beautiful. I feel so connected to this. Just like all of this, like just magic is happening. You know, like we were taking photos and we were all just like really in like a really good place as a group and individually. And then even it sort of evolved into this musician was near us and he came over and like sang to our group. It was like, what? This is just so cool. And plus it was just beautiful, nature-wise. So yeah, like this really beautiful thing, right? And then that carried in through the rest of the retreat. And so after the retreat, and I even said this to the facilitators, one of the last things I told her, I was like, you know what? I really think that I realized that being self-directed, especially at the beginning, going at my own pace, you know, and staying in my own energy, like really actually helped me to connect with this group, and it was beautiful. And I'm really grateful for that. And so that was one of the effects of this journey I've been on of creating a home within myself. Like, even though I'm neurodivergent and that it can have social impacts, like creating the home within myself allows me to connect even more deeply with people, the people that I want to, right? Because like I ended up realizing too that afterwards, or like through the course of the retreat, because almost everybody mentioned it in some way. A lot of people said like, oh, I'm ADHD. Like, you know, I was like, yeah, we're all very neurodivergent, it seems, in this group. And that it allowed me to connect on a like a really genuine level where I was okay if I was weird or strange. I was okay if that didn't work for people. And so when it did, it was because I authentically was being there. They were authentically connecting with me, not because I was trying or masking or like getting it to happen, which wasn't sustainable, or it hasn't ever been sustainable for me, but just because I was showing up as myself. And I knew within me that that was enough and that that was important. And it was just so powerful to see how much of a high that could create. I thought it would just mean that I'd just feel more peaceful throughout, and then I would receive whatever would come from it, and then, you know, we'd part ways. But I was like, oh, this allowed me to experience something more powerful than I even expected, just because I had that home within myself and I was showing up in a self-directed way. So yeah, I think I'll talk about some of the other things that I learned from this retreat, or that I clarified for myself as I was moving through it. But, you know, if in any way this story, regardless of the lack of details, was resonated or inspired something within you, let me know. I'd love to hear how you connected with this or didn't connect with this, or have questions or want maybe more of my thoughts around a specific part of it. That'd be awesome. I will offer that. So bye for now.